What exactly is a DJ? What do they do and what does it involve? Over the course of the next 30 minutes we'll find out as we talk to some of the masters of the mix, pioneers that have travelled the world, played to thousands of people and dedicated their lives to mixing music. We'll also be taking you on a journey through the history of DJing as we explore how taking two turntables and a mixer has become an art form. This is the journey from vinyl to MP3.
DJing to me is entertaining a room full of people with some great tunes, concentrating on who's in front of you, what the vibe is and what they want to hear and entertaining them.
You've got to play the right records at the right time.
It's great if somebody's technically gifted, but if they don't know how to put that music together, they do it in the wrong way. I think that's something that really floors them, regardless of how good they are at mixing.
The whole idea of DJing is there's somebody who is picking good music, whether it be new or old. They should be able to take that music, mix it, and present it to you in an exciting and entertaining way.
DJs have been around for as long as we can remember, but where did it all begin? To start off with, we're going to take you right back to the beginning, to where it all started, right back to 1970. I met up with Greg Wilson, arguably the man who introduced electronic dance music to the industry. He's been DJing since he was 15, but back then in the 70s, DJing was a relatively new phenomenon, and I wanted to hear more about its roots.
When I started out in 1975 in the clubs, the decks that you had were very basic by today's standards. You know, a DJ in the UK used the microphone to kind of announce the records and they back announced them. There was no mixing, and it was near impossible to kind of mix on these decks, you know, to run two records together. There was no vary speed on the turntable, so couldn't beat match or anything like that. And even if you could beat match, the records weren't recorded with regulated drum patterns. You know, some of the American DJs were doing it, and if you could be transported back in a time machine to hear the mixes they were doing, I'm sure that they'd be very short, quick, kind of what they call blends. It wasn't really in the UK till the early 80s, initially, that it really started to kind of make sense because the equipment became available in the clubs. And I think that's where, bit by bit, the UK adopted mixing, and so by the back end of the 80s, the majority of these probably were at least incorporating some level of mixing into their night. And by the 90s, you know, the microphone is all, you know, all but been phased out.
Drop that ghetto blaster!
DJing's gone through a number of changes over the last 50 years, namely due to advancements in technology. The art of the DJ has come under disrepute as new methods have supposedly made things easier. As we've heard, DJs back in the day began using vinyl, the traditional method as it were. Graham Parks has DJed across the globe and has been at the top of his game for some 25 years.
I started on vinyl, like every DJ had to, but I just love that old school way of picking up the needle, putting it on the groove, and then in your headphones there's the record and you can just cue it up in your headphones. To keep the mix going, those little tiny delicate touches. There is an art to mixing with vinyl. If I was going to Australia for a month in the mid-90s, I had to spend a couple of days deciding which records to take, and I could only take 2 record bags. And you just cram them in there, but you couldn't make them too heavy because the airline would charge you too much. So you had to really plan what you were going to take, and whatever you chose to take with you, as soon as you checked your bags in and as soon as you were playing 2 off for the next month, that was your set.
Kutski bought his first set of decks when he was just 15. He started mixing in his bedroom and he's now one of the most well-respected DJs in the industry. So you basically taught yourself?
Oh yeah, completely self-taught. It's like, you know, because with the whole beat matching and mixing type of thing, it's like I didn't have a clue about it first. And I had like a Technics Discman and an old record player and a battered 2-channel mixer, and just I didn't know about beat matching and stuff. I just thought I was just as good as everyone else. And then it's like, you know, by chance, it's kind of once 2 tracks were exactly in time, and I was like, hang on a minute. It's like the penny dropped why I needed 2 decks.
I started off DJing when I was 15, so obviously when I was 15, when everyone was still kind of using vinyl, and it was that crossover when I was started when people were starting to use CD. So I started off using vinyl because I knew that if you started using vinyl, you could pretty much mix anything.
Just like Kutski, Ant Nichols is a club DJ and radio presenter. Both spent much of their teenage years perfecting the art of mixing on vinyl decks, but as a younger generation of DJs, they began at a time when the CDJ was first bursting onto the scene.
CDs didn't really start being used by DJs. Probably about 10 years ago they started sneaking in. But it wasn't until the Pioneer CDJ 1000 came along that DJing with CDs took off. And I was kind of slow to pick up on CDs, partly because people were still making vinyl, so you could still get new stuff and still get the stuff you wanted to play on vinyl. But eventually, throughout the past decade, record companies just stopped pressing vinyl, and there was a decline in record sales anyway. So I started using CDs, and slowly but surely kind of warmed to them, because you could get 8 tracks on a CD, so straight away you're saving on carrying 8 pieces of vinyl. So your little CD wallet replaced your 2 bags of records. You've got to be not a very good DJ if you can't mix on CDJs. They just make mixing easy peasy.
Vinyl started off as very much the industry standard. That was soon superseded by CDs, and while many DJs would say they prefer old school methods, if record companies are no longer pressing vinyl, you simply can't play the tracks. Today a new kid is on the block set to overtake CDs, the mp3, and with all this new technology about, some would say it's the death of traditional DJing methods. For me, I'm not so sure, so I headed down to an independent record shop to hear how they've been affected.
When the CD first came in, I was really quite concerned, because I thought to myself, well, do I get rid of everything now vinyl-wise? And had I done that, then the likes of HMV and Virgin would have just smoked me out completely. But I found now that over the years, a lot of indie bands and a lot of big artists will do limited edition vinyl, and people want them. And I'm finding that young kids and older people are sick of the format of CD, the blandness of it. It's gone from one extreme to another, where you can walk around, you know, with 3,000 titles on your head, when somebody just really wants to look at a really nice gatefold sleeve. It's healthy, and it's very much a viable thing for the future. Like I say, I can think of 3 record guys doing what I'm doing who've just recently started up, and they're doing extremely well. I think with record collecting as such, people are very, very into it. It's quite cool to have a record deck now. They are selling a lot more decks than they would have done, say, a year ago. It's quite refreshing to know that people are back into it. And young kids say, I've just bought a deck. I've got 2 floors of music and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of albums and singles and things, and as long as the market there, and I certainly think that it will continue to do so, then I'm more than happy. I like what I do, and I'd never pack it up until, I don't know, I was on my last legs, I guess, you know.
So it seems vinyl still goes strong in an industry that is constantly changing and adapting. So far we've heard about vinyl and CDs, but what about the mp3? This is the new form of digital technology set to take over, but what exactly is it?
An MP3 is a compressed file, so it's a digital recording, so they've taken some of the detail out to make it a smaller file. It's supposedly the information you can't hear, but it does still give an effect to the end result.
Take it back when she knows that you're doing it right. Taking tonight.
The debate surrounding the quality between vinyl, CDs and MP3s is quite a widely contested area. While individually they all have their own advantages and disadvantages, in terms of quality, some would argue one's poorer than another, while others would contest you simply can't tell the difference.
Well, you see, Is vinyl better than MP3? I don't know. It's a different way. I mean, people 10 years ago were predicting the death of vinyl, and it's not really dead. It's not even on its last legs. It's